back to Jam 316. Today being Tuesday, we have what we call Parenting Tuesday, and we have a very interesting topic that we are going to be discussing in the next short while. To just set pace for that, our question for today is this: what do you think are the telltale signs of child abuse? What do you think are the telltale signs of child abuse? SMSs 20316, WhatsApp 0786 316 316. We'll be taking a look at that and getting into that conversation, but from a slightly different angle than what you're probably thinking. But for now, time for me to invite my second guest for today. In studio with me, I have Pastor Joel Chola, or is it Bishop Joel Chola? How are you doing?
I'm good.
It is good to have you on set this morning. Karibu sana.
What's kahawa, mazi?
What do you think of
Oh,
that?
this is beautiful.
Yes?
Wow.
You like it?
A little coffee and a whole lot of Jesus.
I'm telling you, that's what everybody needs in the morning.
I love it.
Great.
This is nice.
Would you like some coffee?
Yeah, kahawa lazima, mazi.
Let me make,
Niamke.
how many
I still have a sleep, so I need coffee.
how many sugars do you
Just one.
use? Just one sugar.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, that's good. That's
This is
good.
beautiful. Wow.
I want us
Nice.
to take a look at the local dailies.
Oh, sure.
Just find out some of the stories that are making headlines today. And then after that, we'll get into our discussion this
All right.
morning.
Thank you, man.
Looking at parenting.
Hey, mazi, this is nice.
Welcome to my home, my new Jam 316 home. So let's take a look at the local dailies. And I think one of the stories that was really hitting hard yesterday, which is the big story in the Standard newspaper today, School of Death.
Oh, my.
Pain and sorrow for families after 14 people killed and 39 injured in staircase stampede at Kakamega Primary, raising questions about learners' safety. Pastor, I don't know what your thoughts are when you see something like this.
Yeah,
with kids.
I mean, sadly, I think I saw something similar over the weekend,
Okay.
but I think this happened in a church.
Oh, yes.
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 Was it
So-
the one in Tanzania? I
Yeah,
think?
Tanzania, yes,
Yeah.
I saw that. I mean, I'm like, obviously, whenever you're dealing with crowds, you really have to get organized.
Very true.
I mean, I have seen wonderful schools, where children are orderly, there's always a teacher, there's no running.
Yeah.
So obviously, they must have been running for something.
And yesterday I was listening to an interview. Magoha was being interviewed, and he was saying how, I think he was in this school about a month ago, and he was saying those kids were so orderly. The way they were getting into class and
Yeah.
getting out of class. And
So you
he
don't
was
know what
saying,
happened?
I don't know what happened.
Oh,
But it's
man.
tragic. I can't even begin to think what the parents
Yeah,
are
I
going
think
through.
normally it's like something. It's like there's an excitement over something that makes people run.
Or maybe something that causes
Or
a panic.
something that causes a panic.
Yeah.
Because when people fall, you don't see that they're fallen. You
Yeah.
keep running.
Yeah.
The momentum just takes you over.
Very true.
So man, it's sad. It's unfortunate. How many died?
14 people.
Oh, my.
39 are
Pole
injured.
sana. Pole sana.
Yeah,
Pole
condolences
sana.
to the family. The big story in the Daily Nation is about this
Ooh, the
coronavirus.
virus. Oh, my.
What will happen if the virus comes? How to play Russian roulette armed with just a thermometer, 16 isolation beds based at its busiest hospitals. For a population of 50 million and no capacity at the moment to test for the virus, Kenya's best bet is to ensure the bag never gets here. But with the borders still wide open, it's not a matter of if.
It's a
but
matter of when. Yeah,
Are we
I mean,
ready for something like this,
Yeah,
Pastor?
this thing is flying. I mean, obviously, this is nobody anticipates something like this. You only see it in the movies.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
But obviously, somebody said if you can imagine something, it means it's actually possible.
Very true.
So because people have imagined it,
Yeah.
created movies about it, it means it's actually a possibility. But obviously, I think I read another article where they were saying, I mean, obviously people are working day and night
Yeah.
to find the solution.
Wow.
And it'll probably take them a few months to find it.
It will.
Oh,
it
yeah.
will.
They
it
finally
will.
conquer it.
It will. There's another story here of a risky school. We just have one story from a school where children have died, and then we have another one here. Rundown school risks lives of 168 children. Institution has failed in all safety parameters and was shut down by a court. But a court ordered it reopened, and now a wall has collapsed.
Oh, no.
What is all that?
I know. I mean, our schools,
My
need help.
goodness. My goodness.
we need help. I think there needs to be a lot of investment
Yes.
in school infrastructure,
Yes.
especially primary schools.
Very true.
In most of our counties, we need serious investment.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's a story that's breaking. It's not in the daily papers today. A sad day for us as Kenyans because the breaking news is that former President Moi has died. You know, and man,
Yeah.
you know, for our
us,
generation,
Maziwa.
the president has always been Moi. You know, he was a president for such a long time. We couldn't imagine anybody else being president, and even the benefits of Nyayo milk.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what memories you have of
Well,
former
it's
President
funny
Moi.
we're talking about education,
Yes.
you know, and schools, because I think I remember him most for what he did in schools. I mean, he built so many schools.
Being a former teacher
Oh
himself.
yeah, I mean, definitely we give it up to him. I mean,
Wow.
I think Kenya is probably a beneficiary of his investment in education.
Very true.
You know, because I think Kenya is leading in Africa in terms of education.
Wow.
You know, I mean, we've got so many educated people. People have gone to school, colleges, but I think the foundation was really
Yes.
the late President Moi.
I think for me, the earliest memories of President Moi is the fight against soil erosion.
Oh yeah,
You know,
Momonyoko udongo.
yes, his slogan,
Those are
"Ukikata
so-
moja, panda mbili." And then there's the milk, of course.
Yes,
Wow.
that's so true.
Yeah, so we pray for
Well,
the family.
we pray for
then.
the family.
You know, and we join the nation in mourning.
Correct.
One great man.
Correct. We do
you know.
honor him. He was
Yes.
a great guy.
He did some wonderful things.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh
Wow.
yeah. Great
So, my
achievement.
friend, get a copy of the local dailies this morning. There's quite a bit in here for you to update yourself on what's happening both locally and also internationally so that you're in the know. We'll get into our discussion shortly, talking about overcoming childhood abuse. How do you overcome that now that you are a parent? That is coming up shortly. It's Parenting Tuesday. One of the things we have not changed is the themes we have for every day. Motivation Monday, Parenting Tuesday, the Financial Clinic on Wednesday, and we have the Relationship Clinic on Thursday and Lifestyle Friday. Our focus every morning will be on building the family. There's so much negativity out there. There's so many attacks levied against the family. And so for us, we've taken it upon ourselves every morning to bring your way content that will enrich you and benefit your family from a wholesome perspective, whether it is to do with you, the individual, whether it is to do with the relationships in the family, whether it is to do with finances, whether it's to do with how you live life. If it affects your life, we'll talk about it on this show. And so today, being Parenting Tuesday, we are getting into the whole discussion of overcoming childhood abuse. And we are looking at it not from the perspective of the child, but from the perspective of that child who was abused and they have grown up and now they are an adult and they are a parent. How does that affect them? As earlier introduced in studio with me today, Pastor Joel Chola, Bishop Joel Chola, is with us as we get into this discussion. I don't know, Bishop, how would you describe child abuse as? Because it seems like such a wide thing.
Yeah, well, I think that when we talk about abuse, I think of several different aspects.
Okay.
You know, when I think about abuse, first of all, there's domestic abuse. You know, maybe as a parent, you know, I grew up, you know, in a home where it was common for children to be pinched, you know, slapped around, and so I find myself probably propagating that in my own home.
Okay.
Because that's the environment I was used to. Now, I'd like to say that, you know, sometimes it could be something that I've seen modeled before me, and so I keep doing it. Or, you know, the flip side could also have happened that maybe I got abused and then I decided I'll never do it.
Yeah.
And so I go to the other extreme,
Okay.
where now I'm too what's it called? I let go, where I'm no longer controlling, I'm no longer taking my role.
Yeah.
But here, because we're specifically talking about abuse, I think that we're talking about, first of all, some kind of violence. You know, there could be violence, there could be physical abuse,
Yeah.
pinching, grabbing, shoving. You know, the way you grow up, you know, and you are like treated like you're nothing. You know, so
Yes.
unasukumu around, that's abuse also. You know. We also can go deeper, you know, because in some situations you've had sexual abuse.
Oh, yes.
Yes, sexual abuse is
That
also
one is the one that we don't talk a lot about.
yeah, it's like, you know, nobody talks about it, but this is coercing a young child, you know, into sexual acts, or maybe grabbing their parts or misusing them. And so that's abuse, and sometimes that can affect a parent.
Okay.
Because if that happened to them,
Yeah.
and they never got delivered,
Yeah.
and never got, you know, their mindset right, then they could end up, you know, falling into the same trap, because something happened to them that exposed them to some things.
That's
you know,
true.
and so they must be dealt with.
Okay. Do we have anything like emotional abuse?
Yes, emotional abuse. I was going to say that. Emotional
okay.
abuse is where basically you don't have a sense of self-worth because emotionally you had constant criticism when you grew up. You know, maybe your abilities were belittled in some way, and so you are emotionally, you know, I hate to use the word deviant, but it's like there's a lack somewhere.
Okay.
There's a lack of sense of self-worth. And so you've become a parent, then you don't know how to enhance self-worth in your children, if I may put it that way.
Because probably even you yourself at that point, you
Are
don't
still
really
struggling,
have it.
or you've not, or you could have grown up and matured in some ways,
Okay.
but you know, it goes deeper than that. You know, there's got to be intentional acts that enhance a child's sense of self-worth.
Okay.
And so if you never grew up with that kind of setting, then it exposes you to a lack in many ways. Okay. I was going to say another way that another abuse that you may never have thought about is economic. You know what I'm saying?
There's economic abuse.
There's also economic abuse where basically you grew up in a place where you know your needs were never met. You know what I'm saying? Or they were neglected economically. You know, or money was used to, you know, sort of control you.
Yes.
You know, so because I'm the parent and I have power over money,
yeah.
then I use that against you. You know, yet, you know, children, when they are born in your home, they will have needs which are genuine.
Yes.
And I can't use my power as the father to control them economically. You know what I'm saying? So it's a responsibility on the parent's part to ensure that you don't abuse your child economically, because that also is an abuse.
Okay.
You know, where children, you know, they lack what they need, they come and ask.
And yet you're able to
and
provide.
yet I'm able to. Now, it's a different matter when we are struggling as a family, but it's one thing when I have the ability, but I'm just using it as a form of control, you know, to keep you, you know, to deny you some things. And so, you know, that child grows up abused. You know, and they may take that into parenting because they think that's the way to control children. You see, that's a big one.
That's a big one.
Yeah, that's a big one. You know what I'm saying? And so when you talk about there's domestic, there's violence, there's physical abuse, there's sexual abuse, there's economic abuse, there's emotional abuse, and then of course psychological.
Okay.
Psychological abuse is where I cause fear by intimidation. You know what I'm saying? Threatening, harm. You know, that's psychologically. I refuse you maybe to have friends and, you know, na control somehow.
I think a good number of people can identify with that one. Some of our dads.
Yes, isolation from friends.
Yes.
Sometimes even isolation from school. You know, some people use that, you know, as a way to control, you know, to abuse. You know, so it is abuse. Yeah.
Wow. Even as we continue with this discussion, if you identify with some of the things that we are talking about, you went through abuse. And you've probably never even dealt with it. But now here you are an adult, you have your own children, you know, and you may not even know that this is what is affecting your parenting. I would want for you to talk to us. 20316 is the SMS line. WhatsApp number is 0786316316. What are some forms of abuse you probably went through in your family growing up? I'm just wondering, is it possible for somebody to have gone through abuse, but because it was so normal, they didn't even recognize it was abuse? Yeah,
actually, you know, that is the danger. The actual danger is that, you know, when you're a child, there are some things you're not yet exposed to. You know, it's like you're growing up in this environment.
Yes.
And so you tend to think this is normal.
This is what happens in every home.
This is what happens in every home.
There's a story, Pastor, you keep sharing. You must share this one. I've just remembered.
Okay.
You know, there's a story you share about when you were in high school.
It's so funny you said that. I knew that's where you're going.
Please tell us that story, because I think it clearly illustrates what we're talking about.
Yeah, okay. So basically what happened is that when I was in high school, it's the first time I actually came face to face, or rather we had a conversation with some friends.
Yes.
We were in the dorm and, you know, we're just sitting on a Saturday afternoon and we're repeating stories. And so one guy talked about the way his dad beats his mom.
Ooh.
I don't think I had conceptualized it because I was only 13. You know what I'm saying? And in my home, I had never seen my dad beat my mom. It's not, I mean, the only people that were Nyoroshwa and Nyuatoi. You know what I'm saying? So when he said it, I tried to imagine how that happens. I tried to figure out, okay, you mean your dad takes a whip and starts whipping your mom?
Like how?
Like how? And the guy was like, yeah, that's what happened. And to me, it was almost like you're joking. Like, are you kidding me? Is your dad crazy? Like, your mom is not a child. So I laughed.
Oh my goodness.
Man, I began to, like, honestly, it was like a joke to me. Because I had never seen it happen. I had never seen it happen in my home. I'd never seen it happen in my uncle's home. All the people I knew in our family, it's never happened. So when I laughed, I didn't know, but I hurt his feelings. Let me tell you, you know the way you're in two different worlds. One person is laughing and the other person is crying and then gets angry. Let me tell you, this guy jumped on me like with a blow. By the time he hit me, that's when I realized, okay, this is not a joke. So we kind of started ragging and fighting because I realized, man, I have to defend myself. And I'm trying to understand, what have I said?
Where is he coming from?
Where is he coming from? Now, I had never conceptualized it in my mind.
Okay.
So we're in two different worlds. Both of us growing up in one home where there's abuse, there's violence. To him, that's how to me, I've grown up in a home where it's completely different. And I've never understood this. So it brings me to that point that, when you grow up in an environment as a child, to you, that's what normal is. So to me, normal was dad and mom are just adults. They never fight. They never beat each other. Us guys, we're kids. If we do something wrong, if we cross the line, then we will get disciplined. So I meet a guy who is the reverse. In home, that is the environment he grew up.
Yes.
Then he meets me and he thinks you're making a joke out of it. So we start fighting.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
I know, it's totally crazy. So yeah, you're right. I mean, the thing is that I think if you grow up in a certain environment, to you, that becomes the norm.
Yes.
And so you may have a tendency. Now, please notice the word may. Because obviously as you grow up, there's great stations like family. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So at some point as a mature adult, you will hear things like you will hear today. And you realize, okay, I think I've been carrying something. So you may change along the way.
Yeah.
And of course, if you meet the Lord, that's even a whole new ballgame. Because now you go into a whole different world where now truth is being told to you. You're hearing scriptures, you're learning. So you will turn the corner. There is grace and you will at some point turn the corner. But there are those who, if you've never gone through this, if you've never heard the truth, then you tend to replicate what your parents did.
Okay, I'm just wondering, and we'll get into this part of the conversation, but just to form some sort of bearing, I'm just wondering, because sometimes, especially in our African culture, some of these things, we don't talk about them because unaleta aibu kwa familia. I don't expose your family out there. So for that person who went through any form of abuse as a child, but they never dealt with it, it's just been suppressed in them. When they become a parent, does it affect their parenting? Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, Pastor James, we are what we grew up in. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I mean, whatever environment we grew up in is who we are. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Unless there's a radical shift. Yes. And we know that radical shift when it comes, like Paul, on the way to Damascus. All he knew was to persecute the church because he was against everything that the church was doing. Until he encountered the Lord Jesus Christ, he was who he was. He was a radical, Pharisee. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so the truth is, and you see this in scripture. I mean, you see it in lots of the stories you read, even the Old Testament, concerning families, David and his children, Solomon, and things that they propagate because of where they grew up. The truth is, Pastor James, we are formed when we are children. When we are children. In fact, somebody said that your formative years are the youngest years. From the time you're born until about 8. Yes. That's when a lot of things are formed in your spirit, in your mind, in your heart. And you will become that person. No wonder the Bible says, train up a child. Exactly, in the way they should go, so that when they are older, they will not depart. Okay. Or even if they depart, they already know they have a bearing of where to go back to. We'll get deeper into that discussion in the next short while. Okay. Remember, our question for this morning was, what are the telltale signs of child abuse? We'll be sampling some comments that different individuals gave us on this subject. But if you identify with some of the things we are talking about this morning, because we are going to get into how do you then overcome this so that it does not affect your parenting and affect your children and in turn become a cycle, and then later we begin talking about, generational curses, this thing happens in my family. No, you can nip it in the bud and you can say it stops with me because it's going to be different with my family. We'll get into that shortly. So remember, SMSs 20316, WhatsApp 0786316316. I have another guest I'll be introducing you to in the next short while. It's Tuesday, Parenting Tuesday. Today we are talking about overcoming childhood abuse. So we had the opportunity to go into the streets and to just talk to a couple of people and to find out from them what they thought the telltale signs of child abuse are. And these are some of the comments and the thoughts they shared with us.
A child that has been abused and there is no communication between the parents may not know what's happening unless the parents have created that harmonious communication within the family unit. By the family unit, I mean all the people that live in that house. You understand what I'm saying? We start from the father, come to the mother, come to the kids, come to the mboch. If there is a communication breakdown somewhere down the line, if the man has left some kind of communication commands to be done by the mother may not do it. It also depends on how the father communicates with the wife and how they handle information in that house.
Ndio ujue mtoto wako ako abused, unafaa kuanza kuongea na mtoto from the word go when the child is still young. Unaanza kuongea na yeye ndio kama mtu amemguza, amemfanyia kitu, at least anakuja anakuambia.
Nitajua, unajua mtoto yako unajua kila siku. Unajua vile ana behave. But kama umetoka kazi, ukuje nyumbani, upate kama hako normal, lazima useme, ai, kuna kitu mbaya na huyu mtoto. So lazima utamuuliza kitu gani mbaya? Pengine pressure atasema kama amesema atachapwa. But I will know something has happened with this child.
Si utamwona kama vile ana behave, kama kwa na behave the same way. Si unaelewa mtoto ni wako. Si unajua huyu behave yake si ya kawaida. So it is a matter of the behavior, the way she behaves or the way he behaves. Hiyo ndio itakwambia kama huyu amekuwa abused or the other way around.
Abuse will come out, and it also depends on what you may call abuse. Abuse may be kids have been denied food. Abuse may be kids are being, harassed by who is in that house.
So those are some of the comments that we were able to get from some people on the streets on this whole aspect of child abuse. Remember, once again, I'm inviting you to join this conversation and be a part of it. 20316 is my SMS line. WhatsApp number is 0786316316. A couple of SMSs have already come in. We'll be sampling them in the next short while as we go on with this discussion. I have my second guest in studio this morning, Faith Masambia. How are you doing?
I am doing great.
It is good to have you.
Good to have you too.
Karibu sana.
See you.
Yeah, we need a psychologist in the house to help us know how things work up here when we are abused. So it's good to have you on set.
Thank you.
My mother taught me well. Aliniambia, when you get guests into your home,
Yes.
you give them a cup of tea, a cup of coffee. So would you like some coffee?
Yeah, sure, please.
1 sugar, 2 sugars?
No
or you
sugar, please.
No sugar?
Yes.
You're not promoting my people from Mumias?
No, sugar is not too good for you.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. Karibu sana, good to have you.
Thank you.
You know, earlier on before you arrived, I was having a conversation with Pastor Chola. I know you met
Yes.
him behind the scenes.
Yes.
And he was just explaining to us and defining to us what child abuse is. But that was the pastor's perspective. I would like to hear from a psychologist. What in your term would you say child abuse is?
Child abuse can be defined in so many ways. It could be neglect, not being there fully for your child,
Okay.
not providing them with food, the necessities that they need to thrive as a child, not being there to support their growth, essentially, or violence, okay?
Yeah.
Violence, sexual abuse, all those are forms of child abuse.
Okay.
So I would say child abuse can be characterized as neglect, various forms of abuse like violence, sexual abuse. Even sometimes, we notice with children who have special needs or who are disabled. Medical neglect can also be a form of abuse when you deny them the access to medical necessities or the things that they need to be able to thrive. So I think all those can be defined as child abuse.
Let's talk about this child who went through abuse. They're growing up. they're becoming an adult.
Yes.
And this is something that is suppressed in their lives. They never dealt with it. You know, some of these issues, especially within the African context, we don't like talking about them.
No.
You know, tunaharibu jina ya familia.
Yes.
How does it affect an individual?
There's been a lot of studies that show that children who experience abuse while they're growing up begin to relate with that becomes their way of relating with the world. Okay. You know, because you need to think about a child, everything that they learn from the models in their society. Okay, so how I was brought up, then that is going to influence my parenting style. Okay, I begin to think when I'm frustrated, when I'm stressed, and I come home and my child is not doing the things that I need them to do, because I was brought up in a family where the first resort to everything was kiboko, then that is how I'm going to be thinking about dealing with my kids. If I come home and my kids have not done something, my first reaction is not, so why was this not done? My first reaction is, where is the slippers, or where is the mwiko? That it becomes my way of dealing with things.
Okay.
Yes.
So would I be right in saying that one of the effects is that you may end up projecting the same thing that was done to you to your child or to other people?
Yes, yes. You'll notice a lot of studies have shown that for a lot of children who are aggressive, even in the playground, they are modeling what they have seen happen at home. Okay, that becomes their way of relating with the world. So it's very likely, not all the time. I have to say not all the time, because human beings are very resilient.
Yes.
We might have other protective factors, other intervening relationships that teach us that this is not the only way to respond, the only way to deal with things or with issues. So it's not always that because you were raised in a family where there was a lot of abuse that you will end up that way.
It's interesting you say that, because I remember once, I think I heard or I read somewhere of two men brought up by the same father, drunkard, violent, and one of the boys grows up a replica of the father, violent, drunk, and he's asked, why are you this way? And he says, because my father was this way. And the other one went in the exact opposite direction, doesn't drink, no violence, is very loving, and he's being asked, why are you this way? And the same answer is, because my father was this way.
Yes.
You know, how do you explain that?
Again, it could be, you know, genetic predispositions, the things that allow us to be different.
Okay.
It can be the relationships, the surrounding relationships around us, where we learn that you can be different. Okay, there are very many protective factors in our society. Human beings are incredibly resilient. Yeah, we don't always. You'll see children who are abused do not always tend to carry those issues of abuse with them to their later years.
Okay.
Although it's also highly likely that other people, somebody will. If it's not probably the pattern of abuse, it could be other mental health issues that could come up. Yeah. Instead of, you know, people tend to act out or act in. Yeah. So instead of taking it out on other people, they may take it in on themselves, and we'll notice that through alcohol, substance use, issues to do with depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress. So it really could go either way, like you said, with that story.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Listen to this one. This is a text coming in from Joyce all the way in Uganda. Joyce, how are you doing? Thank you for tuning in. Joyce is saying, the pastor is right. My mom abused me psychologically, physically, mentally, and even emotionally. And I almost transferred it to my son. I really had to do some serious soul searching. It took me to be broken before God to be healed of the anger, hatred in my heart. Very interesting.
Yeah.
So you carry anger and you carry hatred.
Yes.
Can you carry them without knowing that you're carrying them?
Yes, because, you know, it becomes your innate way of relating.
Okay.
And you think that this is just me. Yeah. This is just how I deal with the world. And parenting styles definitely have consequences for children.
Okay.
Either emotional or behavioral.
Yeah.
Okay. How you bring up your children. Okay. maybe the spanking or how you even talk to them. You know, sometimes it might not even be violence.
Yeah.
It can be how you communicate with this child when the child comes home from the school and they're not doing well in school. How do you communicate that? How do you communicate when you're disappointed or frustrated with them? Yeah. She says, she talks about physical abuse. She also
Yes.
talks about emotional abuse. If you're constantly telling your child, you don't matter, wewe ni mjinga, yeah? How can you constantly fail in math, even with all the tuition that I give you? Okay, you kind of reinforce, reinforce the fact that I am nothing, and that becomes this person's way of viewing themselves.
Okay.
They might not necessarily notice it. It just becomes their way of relating with the world. Yeah, I feel like every time I'm called upon to do something, I want to hold back. Because, and I can't really say why, but deep inside, if you look at it, it's because I'm worried about the feedback that I'm going to get. Yes.
I
know it's going to
love
be,
what
yeah.
you're saying, because basically what I hear you saying is that it's not just affecting your parenting,
Yes.
it's affecting your perception of who you are and how you interact with other people around you,
Yeah.
and even your self-worth. So would you say it's important for us to always look back? Look back at how you grew up. Look back at some of the things you liked or you didn't like when you were growing up. You know, basically do some soul searching, because many of us, I don't think we do that. We just have this hatred against my dad, my mom, and life goes on.
It is important to look back, and that's why we're here as psychologists, because we want to, a lot of people, when people hear the word psychologist, there's a lot of stigma, and they think that
Yes.
people who go to see psychologists are broken in some
Yes.
way, yeah? But it could be you. Maybe there's something that you do in your everyday life, and you know that you do this thing, and a lot of people around you consider this thing that you do not to be very healthy, but you can't really put a finger as to why is it that I do this thing that I do. Yeah. Why do I yell when I'm upset?
Yes.
Why do I feel the need to punch something when I'm when I'm upset? Why
Something
is it?
or someone.
Yes, or someone. Why is it important for me to throw a punch
Yeah.
rather than communicate how I am feeling?
Okay.
Think about it in the African perspective. A lot of boys, for example, are socialized to respond. Yeah, respond with violence, because we saw it from our fathers growing up.
Yeah.
When dad is mad, he'll throw something. Okay, and that becomes our way of relating, rather than saying, I feel like that you've hurt me.
Yes.
I feel very frustrated. I feel very disappointed with you right now. It's important that we learn how to communicate how we are feeling. Yeah, and to be able to do that, it's important to look back. It's important to go back and ask yourself, when did I learn to be this way?
Okay.
Yeah. When did I develop this way of coping with issues?
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe you identify with what we are talking about today. You know, I remember growing up, one of the things my mom constantly would say is, Mrs. Refa Okumu, I know you're watching, your son is about to confess your sins on national TV. My mom would always say, I have no money. Even when she had money, her first statement, her default setting was, I have no money. So we knew how to time and what to say. And I'll never forget one time we were at the supermarket with my son when he was still young, and he asked for something. And I said, I have no money. And then I froze in the middle of the supermarket and I said, that's not me, that's my mom. That's my mom's voice through me. And you know, we don't sometimes realize how much how we were parented affects how we are parenting today. Solutions. So what do you do? If you recognize that you are abused as a child and you're projecting that abuse to your children, several people have texted in with situations like that. We will be getting into those and giving you solutions this morning on this whole discussion. But remember, you're still a part of this discussion. SMS is your questions, your thoughts, your experiences, 20316 SMS line, and WhatsApp number is 0786 316 316. Tuesday, Parenting Tuesday. How do you overcome childhood abuse? That's what we're talking about today. Wonderful guests in studio. We have Faith Masambia, who's a psychologist at the Nairobi Mental Health Center. We have Pastor Joel Chola, and joining us on set as well is Mrs. Bishop. Pauline Chola is with us. Before we give solutions, a very interesting question coming through here, and maybe I'll direct this one to you, Faith. This individual is asking, how do you differentiate between a child who's going through the adolescent stage and is hence dressing in a provoking manner, piercings everywhere, from one who's acting out of anger from the inside of them because of what was done to them? Yeah.
It's not that hard to differentiate because children are very expressive and adolescents are very expressive also. It just depends on the platform that they've been provided. So is this a home where the children feel like we can speak freely about what we are feeling, about what we're going through?
Yeah.
Adolescence is a period of individuation. This is a period when the adolescent wants to separate themselves from their family.
Yes.
They want to show that I am my own person, I am my own being. So that could be them simply expressing themselves. It does not necessarily mean that they are angry. Maybe that's how they want to express themselves as an individual.
Yes.
Okay. But there could also be other things that are going on deep inside, but you really can't know unless you create an environment in the family where the child can open up and feel comfortable to speak to you about whatever it is that they're going through. Yeah.
Let's talk to that part.
Basically, looks can be deceiving. That's what
Yes.
he said.
Yes.
You
Looks
can
can be
completely misjudge.
Yeah.
Just because somebody's wearing an earring doesn't mean that they have a wrong heart attitude.
Yes.
Just because they have dreadlocks
Yes.
doesn't mean that something's wrong with them on the inside.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you need to have the conversation.
Yes,
Yes,
at the end of
yes.
the day.
Dig out.
You need to have that conversation with
Absolutely.
them.
Okay.
Totally
Yes.
agree.
Okay. Let's talk to this parent who's tuned in today, and they recognize I was actually abused as a child, and I'm transferring that to my children. There was one SMS that came in earlier. I'm trying to look for it, but basically what this individual was saying is that their father was very harsh to them growing up, especially where the subject of maths is concerned. Their father was hard on them with mathematics, and they have recognized they're transferring it to their 8-year-old daughter. Until they've come to a place now, they don't help their daughter with maths. It's the wife who does that.
Yeah.
So to that parent who's recognized, I'm transferring this to my child, what do they do?
For me, one of the things that I would say,
Yeah.
the number one thing that you need to say, and Faith alluded to it earlier, is that you need to recognize who you are. You know, have a self-awareness of who you are, and that's what that father has done.
Okay.
He recognized that he was transferring something to their child that he had received when he was younger.
Yeah.
Most of us don't do that. We don't have self-awareness, we don't reflect on ourselves. And because of that, we transfer things to our children and we don't even recognize that we are doing that. So the first thing we need to do as parents is to have that self-awareness. She said earlier, a lot of times people don't say, I will come and see a counselor for whatever reason, because they don't think they have a problem. Most of the time, people don't think they have a problem. That parent is very lucky that he recognized he had that problem. Okay? And when you recognize you have that problem, that's when now you're able to see, and somebody is able to tell you, the reason why you're reacting like this is because of what you went through your childhood. Because, you know, you'll sit down with a counselor and they'll talk to you and they'll ask you questions. And then the moment they ask you questions, now you become self-aware.
Okay.
And most parents are not self-aware. Most people are not self-aware. And so now they transfer abuses and things to their children that they don't need to transfer. Yeah. And so that's the first thing that you need to do. And like what he did, he decided, I am not the one who's going to help my children
to do maths. No.
You know, yeah. When I was growing up, I remember I had a teacher when I was in class 2. And she called me a dunderhead.
Oh my goodness.
And she called and she told me,
Pretty wife.
Oh
yes.
my goodness.
And she told me that I need to go to Jacaranda School.
Wow.
Now, I didn't know what Jacaranda School was.
Yes.
Okay? So I come home to my mom.
Yeah.
And she's cooking. And then I'm asking her, Mom, what is Jacaranda School? Then she said, wait, I'll tell you. Then she cooked. And then we sat down in the kitchen. I remember very well where we were, even the house. And she told me Jacaranda School is the children who, she actually told me in Kikuyu, who like drool and they're mentally not fine. That's they are taken there so that now the teachers can teach them there because they can't go to regular school. Now, let me tell you, my teacher, my mom didn't recognize why I was asking the question. And she gave me the answer. I mean, honestly, you know, and she didn't know.
Wow.
Then I thought, okay, so my teacher has said, this is my class 2 teacher. I am 7 years old.
And it's interesting you remember it till today.
Yes.
Class 2.
Class 2. I was 7 years old. So I remember this teacher telling me this, and so I sat down and thought about it. I'm a child. Now, because the teacher has said it, then that means I am. And the teacher said, I'm a dunderhead, so that means I am. So from that point, I stopped reading. From that point, I stopped studying. From that point, whenever we were given an exam paper to do, this is class 2. Nobody fails class 2.
Yes.
Let me tell you what I would do. If it's an English paper, because it was either English, maths, and there were very few subjects. Instead of thinking and writing or reading through the question, this is what I would do. I'd write A, B, C in one dash, E, F, G, H, I, J, and I would go on like that one. It's not guesswork. I'd just write the alphabet and go through, and then when I would have a math paper to do, I'd write numbers.
How did you eventually break out of that?
I had a teacher in class 3.
Another teacher.
Yes.
So when I went to class 3 and I did class 3, my English teacher in class 3 went and told my mom, this girl of yours, there's something that is wrong. She's not foolish, because you see, she would interact with me with other things.
Yes.
Then she'd recognize there's she's fine. If I send her and whatever. So what happens when she does this exam? So she asked me to repeat class 3. And she would be my class teacher. So I went to class 3 the same way.
Yeah.
But then now when I was in class 3, she recognized. So I repeated class 3, and of course I
Things
passed.
changed. Wow. Listen to this one.
Yeah.
I don't know what you would tell this lady. She's tuned in from Kericho. Thank you for tuning in and thank you for your question. My father never liked us talking to boys at all. And it affected my dating. Would you consider that a form of abuse? That's what she's asking. Because now she's an adult and she's having problems dating.
I don't think that parent probably did not mean to abuse. They meant to protect their daughter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Overprotective.
Yes, that was over protection. In this day and age, I always talk to parents at the clinic about developing good discipline skills. Okay, learn that there's so much information out there right now in the world. There are some things you shouldn't be able to get away with. You shouldn't be resorting to poor discipline skills because of stress, because you're frustrated, because you're panicking. Because you know sometimes that parent is just reacting out of, I want my child to be okay. So because we are reacting out of fear and our own anxiety, we displace all those issues onto our children. Yeah. It would be important to sit down with this girl and say, you know, I don't feel like this is the right time for you to be in a relationship. Okay. Maybe you could focus on school until you're in fourth, you're done with your Form 4. Then whoever you want, bring them over. Let's get to know them. Let's get to see whether they're the right person for you. Because it's not just because you don't want them to be in a relationship and you don't want them to relate with the boys, it does not mean that they won't. Because it's also it's a developmental stage. Okay. And so you just don't turn that off by saying don't do it. Yes.
I am hearing voices in my head. And it is not the voice of Jehovah. It's my producer telling me I'm running out of time. Pastor, maybe you could wrap this for us. I know your wife has talked to us about recognizing, but I don't believe that's the end. Maybe you can give us 1 or 2 more points.
Well,
how do you deal with this?
Yeah, well, I think that...
In a minute.
In a minute.
Yes.
What I'd say is that, you know, obviously recognizing the issue is the first point of healing.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I accept I have a problem.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? But what's the next step?
Exactly.
I really do believe that Scripture gives us the solution. First of all, you remember the children of Israel were slaves for many, many years. Then they came out, and that generation, the Scripture says in Joshua chapter 5, verse 9, they got to the point where their children, we're talking about the children whose parents were slaves, had to come to the point of circumcision and healing. They were circumcised, they were healed. And what did God say? Today I have rolled away the reproach of Egypt from you. So that means God has the power to give you and the ability to give you a completely new start. That's why he says, you know, I come to heal the brokenhearted. So God can restore you. And that's why it's a point of, once you recognize there's a problem, first come to the Lord, because the truth is the entire blueprint is in the Scriptures. I recognize that, you know what, there's some reproach that needs to be removed. There's a part of me that I recognize was wrong. It was an abuse. I don't want to translate that to my children. So come to that point of realization, come to the point of acceptance, then come to the Lord. Allow the Spirit of God to begin to remove that reproach, because the Word of God is very clear. It will build you up to become a great parent. There are so many great parents who probably didn't have
Very
such
true.
a great upbringing. But what has made the difference is that the reproach has been removed.
Wow.
And something new has been put in their hearts. God will give them a new heart, a new spirit. They'll begin to grow in the things of God. They will learn how to be great parents. In fact, even if you grew up in a great home, you still have a lot to learn. So personally, I consider myself blessed because I grew up in a great home. However, there's still a lot more that I have learned since that time.
Wow.
Because my parents were still not perfect. They did great, but there was a lot to do. And so I think that, and of course, the big thing is you've got to forgive them.
Very true.
I think if you don't forgive your parents,
You will have to forgive me. Because we are out of time.
okay, fine.
We need
No,
to go
but I
down.
understand.
Thank
You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Thank
you
you
need to
very
forgive
much.
them, so
Forgive
that
them.
then you can move forward.
Yes.
Yeah.
Faith, Bishop, Mrs. Bishop, thank you so much
Thank you.
for being my first guests on my new set. I truly do appreciate that. I'm out of time.
We'll be back.
We'll be back,
be back,
definitely.
yes.
My TV viewers, I have to say bye. We'll catch up again tomorrow. My guys on radio, we are still going on until 10 o'clock. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. Tomorrow will be Financial Clinic. We'll be talking about how to handle money in your business. Tumemaliza siku ya leo. Give me feedback on what you think about the new look and the new format. 20316 SMS, WhatsApp 0786 316 316.